Hi, I'm Roseleaf T. I've released 2 games for free on itch. Sprouts, a little pet game I made in Game Boy Studio, and Honeybread, a short, fluffy visual novel set in my fantasy com world. Sweet Alyssum is going to be my first commercial project and my biggest game to date, not including all the lofty ideas that I tried to execute in RPG Maker when I was a teenager. This is my first Sweet Alyssum devlog. I admit I don't know how often I'll be making them, and I don't know if future devlogs will also be videos. Technically, Sweet Alyssum started last year as a small Halloween visual novel project I never finished. Scope creep got the best of me, but then I had other things to do, and I'm only now getting back to it after the release of Honeybread. Sweet Alyssum is now a 3D game, so I've moved development to Godot and effectively started over from scratch. As well as romancing the strange people you live with, you'll be managing your health, exploring the mansion you now call home to try and figure out the secrets. The first thing I did when starting development of Sweet Alyssum was make a plan for the whole game. I decided to copy what worked with Honeybread, plan every scene and asset required, then build the whole game without art or writing, and finally make the assets and add them in. Planning means I made a list of every scene I intend to include. Something I do with pen and paper, as I can focus better that way. I found that my planning took longer than anticipated. While I do have my list of scenes, technically I'm still not done as I'm yet to complete my asset list. Since this game is more complex than Honeybread, I also added prototyping all the game systems and making sure everything would work as the second phase after planning. I originally allocated myself 3 weeks to build the prototype, believing it would take me longer than that. And I started coding on the 26th of July. Now, on the 2nd of August, the prototype is done. The clickable objects were surprisingly simple to code, including pickups, the camera shoots a ray out when the player clicks the screen, and if it hits a hitbox with an on-click function, it calls it. The biggest difficulty I had was with the dialogue. The plugin I originally picked to handle dialogue in the game handled sprites for me. And then it kept introducing minor errors. I'd get everything working one night, the next morning several clickables broke because the dialogue system failed to exit correctly, trapping the player. In the end, I switched, which meant I had to code my own sprites. Not as much of a headache as I feared, and I feel that the implementation I made is much more straightforward than the one I was using originally. While building the system, I used some of my original sprites from last year, when this was meant to be a month-long Halloween project. This side tangent did add several days to the prototype development time. On to the full game. I started over with a blank Godot project so that I could tidy up any mess in the prototype as I went. I started by setting up the folders, and then I, of course, added the most important asset to the game. Weege.
Hi, I'm Weege.
Weege added, I wrote my final clickable code, which is only slightly frustrating. Using export variables, I can set the model hitbox and texture of each clickable in the editor and just instantiate the clickable scene. Very cool, very clean. In the editor, all items appeared as nothing. I solved this by adding large translucent yellow boxes, which are hidden when not in debug mode. Added benefit, I can set the yellow boxes to the same size as the hitboxes when the game runs, so that I can easily check all my items have appropriate hitboxes during testing. The word box is beginning to lose all meaning. And now here we are, today. There's a long way to go, but it's not a huge project. Given I have very little time to work on it, I'm optimistic it will be finished before 2030.